How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Chof, Daf 120 of Masechta BavaBasra, friends. Your friends. Unclear if today's Daf is going to be long. It definitely might be. Alright. We're going to start on Daf Kuf Yud Tes Amud Beis, about 4 lines before the bottom. Zogt the Gemara. Tani Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov. Teaches Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov. Afilu ketana sheboyin lo nises prusa me'arboyim shana. Even the youngest of the Tzlafchad daughters did not get married any less than 40. Double negative. But they got married. They took their time. They got married at 40. At least the youngest to get married was 40, and because they took their time to find just the right fellow. Ini, is this really true? But Rav Chizda says, "Nises prusa mibas esrim yoledes ad shishim." So if a woman gets married before the age of 20, so then she will be able to have children until the age of 60. Bas esrim yoledes ad arboyim. If she gets married at 20, she can conceive until 40. But if she gets married, if she gets married at 40 plus, so then she won't be able to have any children. So how could it be that the Bnos Tzlafchad were getting married at 40? How are they going to have children? But because they were tzidkanios, they were righteous, so a miracle happened for them, like Yocheved, Moshe Rabbeinu's mother, Yocheved. Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, "Veilech ish mi bas Levi vayikach es bas Levi," that a person from the house of Levi, i.e. Amram, married the daughter of Levi, Yocheved. Efshir bas mei v'shloshim shana v'kara la bas. How could it be that it says that Amram married a bas Levi? Somebody who's 130 years old, I wouldn't think to call her as a daughter, as a bas, bas. Imagine somebody younger than 130. So, Vikar Labas, because after Reb Chama says, how do we know that she was 130? So, that the Pesukim say that 70 Yidden went down to Egypt initially. Yet, if you actually count the individuals in the Pesukim, so it's actually 69. So what's Pshat? Pshat is, well, Yocheved was kind of like Nishtaher, because she was conceived outside of Egypt but born in Egypt. So therefore it says 70. When it says 70, it includes Yocheved, but when it counts the individuals, Yocheved is niddarten. It's not there. That she was born to Levi in Egypt. She was born in Egypt, but she was not conceived in Egypt, which means that Yocheved was there from the beginning. Now the Yidden were in Eretz Yisrael, were in Mitzrayim for 210 years. Now Moshe Rabbeinu was 80 when the Yidden left Egypt, which means that 210 minus 80 is 130. So Memele, Yocheved was 130 when Moshe Rabbeinu, when she got back together with Amram, and they had Moshe Rabbeinu. Then why do they call her a bas if she's 130? Yehuda bar Zvira melamed teacher shenoldu ba Simon Iris, that she became like very young. Nisa'adin abasar, her flesh became very nice. Nispashto akmatin, any wrinkles she had unwrinkled. V'chazar yofi l'mkomo, the beauty returned to its place. Vayikach, Frekti Gemara, what does it mean that Amram took Yocheved, that he married Yocheved? Vayachzo miboyle, it should say that they remarried, not that he married, but they remarried. They were already married, and then because of the Gezerah against all the boys that would be born, so they separated. Miriam then brought them back together. So it should be that they came back to each other, not that he took her. So Amr of Yehuda bar Zvida melamed she'asa lo ma'aseh lekuchin, that when Amram and Yocheved got back together it was like there were things that were like the first time they got married. Hoshiva Ba'Pirion, she sat in a what's the thing called? I don't know, some kind of a carriage. Ve'Aharon and Miriam Mishorim Lifonel, and Aharon and Miriam were singing before Malochi Ashoris Omrim, and the ministering angel said, Emabonim Smeicho, that the mother of the children is happy. Lahalon Manoyon Akosov Derech Giduloson V'chan Derech Chochmoson. So when the pasuk talks about the Bnos Tzlafchad getting married, so it names the Bnos Tzlafchad in age order. And yet, when it mentions when they came before Moshe Rabbeinu, it was in a different order, in order of their greatness, right? Whoever was greatest. Misayeh le Reb Ami. This supports Reb Ami. The Reb Ami says, Reb Ami b'yeshive halichach chochma b'mesibe halichach zikno. That when it comes to a yeshiva, place of learning, so then priority goes to the wise one. When it comes to some kind of a party, priority goes to the eldest one. We're talking about when they are both exceedingly wise and exceedingly old. So in that case, when you have somebody who's exceedingly wise and somebody who's exceedingly old, so by a yeshiva, priority would go to the one who's exceedingly wise. And when it comes to a party, it would go to one who's exceedingly old. So by the Besmedrash Rabbi Shmuel, they said that actually the Bnos Tzlafchad, they were all equally awesome, and therefore that's why they can kind of be interchangeable. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Vatiyena havaya achas lechulan. Vatiyena, there was one worrying for each of them, i.e., they were all of equal stature. Omer Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, says Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Bnos Tzlafchad hutru linasei l'chol hashvatim, that the Bnos Tzlafchad were allowed to marry any of the tribes, right? Because there was the whole shtickle Torah about, and it's a pasuk in the Torah really, that since they stood to inherit, so if they marry outside of the tribe, so then the portion of Tzlafchad is going to end up going outside of their tribe. So therefore the pasuk says that they should marry within their tribe. But says Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel that actually the Bnos Tzlafchad were allowed to marry any tribe they wanted. Shenema, the pasuk says, "Atov b'nei tiene l'noshim," that they can, to whoever is good in their eyes, they can get married. Elamani mekayim ach lemishpachos lemishpachas mate avim tiene l'noshim. So why does it say that it should be the tribe of their father? So it's not anybody; it's specifically their tribe. So Eitzatova isian akosov shlo yinosu ela lahagun loin. No, that was just good advice. That wasn't saying that they have to marry within their shevet, but it was good advice. The idea being that they should marry somebody who's a good bacher. All right. Mosiv Rabba, however, asks a kasha. Emor aleim. This is by Tumas Ochlin. Tumas Kodshim. This is by Tumas Kodshim. So when it comes to Tumas Hektish, Tumas Kodshim, it says, Emor aleim, say to them, La'osan ha'omdim ala Sinai. So when it says Emor aleim, it's talking about the generation of Mount Sinai. For future generations, that is the upcoming generations. Nemar ovis loma nemar bonim, vim nemar bonim loma nemar ovis. Why do I need to single out both the current generation of Har Sinai as well as future generations? Why do I need both of them individually? Because because certain things apply only to the initial generation of Har Sinai, or to the first let's say the generation to which it was decreed. And there are other things that apply to future generations. For example, ba'avisu omer, when it comes to nachlis, it says, right, by the Bnos Tzlafchad, v'chol bas yoreshes nachla, that any daughter who stands to inherit an inheritance should marry within her tribe. And that was specifically for the generation to which it was commanded. And there are also, of course, many mitzvahs that were commanded to future generations. For example, mitzvahs atluyos ba'aretz were not shaykh to the Dora Midbar, They were shaykh to future generations. And therefore, and therefore, because some things apply only to the initial generation that it was taught to, and other things apply to all generations, that's why by Tumas Kodshim, the pasuk mentions both the current generation as well as future generations. Katoni Mios. Now, the Rabbah Shaila is that we had just taught Be'ovis hu omer v'chobas yureshes nachla, that by the generation of the Midbar it says that any daughter who stands to inherit a property needs to marry within the tribe. So doesn't that mean that the Bnos Slavchad, who were that generation, need to marry within their tribe? They can't marry outside of their tribe? So most of Lavu Mefarik Law, Rabbi asks the Kasha, but Yochid answers the Kasha, Levi, Bnos Slavchad, excluding Bnos Slavchad. Everybody else other than Bnos Slavchad, if there are daughters that stand to inherit, so then they must marry within their tribe, but Bnos Slavchad did not need to. We said earlier, so we said earlier that by the generation of the Midbar it says that any girl who stands to inherit must marry within their tribe. Okay, so that we're going to call that nachlis. Okay, that by nachlis it says specifically to that generation. Nachla be'ovesin be'banim lo. So we say that Nachla is specifically by that generation, but not by future generations. My mashma, how do we learn this from this pasuk v'chobas yureshes Nachla? So Amarav says, Rav Amarav, the pasuk says Zeh Adover. It says in the context of Nachla, it says Zeh Adover. Dover Zeh lo yenoig ela b'dor zeh. That this inyan of Nachlis is specifically for this generation, not for future generations. Okay. Amalei Rabba Zuti the Ravashi, but then Rabba Zuti says to Ravashi, 1 second. So if we're saying that because by Nachlis it says Zeh Adover, so therefore it's this generation, not future generations. What about Shchutei Chutz? If you slaughter if you slaughter Kodshim outside of the Beis Hamikdash, or outside of the Mishkan, when there was a Mishkan, you chayiv Koris. It says Zeh Adover. Hochinami tlo yenoyig ela b'dor zeh. So that ochit would only be by that by the Dor Midbar, by the generation to which it was commanded. Shchutei Chutz. Shani Osam dichsiv v'dorosam. No, it's different because by Shchutei Chutz it says the Dorosam for their generations as well. So it says Zeh Adover for this generation, but it also says the Dorosam for all generations. So therefore Shchutei Chutz applies to all generations, but Zeh Adover by Nachla would only be for the generation to whom it was commanded. Zeh Adover the Rashi Amatis. What about by Nedarim? So the Gemara says a forest Nedarim. I don't understand why it would be a forest Nedarim. Shouldn't it be a Torah? I think it's a Torah Nedarim. If anybody can explain to me why is a forest Nedarim and a Torah Nedarim somewhat interchangeable? Like Hafaras Nedarim is when the husband is Mayfair his wife's vow. Does that need to be done in front of Bezdin? I don't remember. But anyways, I don't think that that's what it's talking about. I think it's talking about like, a person makes a neder, he wants to annul the neder. So does that Hafaras Nedarim? I think that's what it's talking about. So the halachas of Nedarim, would that of a forest Nedarim, a Taurus Nedarim, would that only be for that particular generation, not for future generations? It says Zeh Adover. So Amalei Sarvashi responds, Ahu Yolav Zeh Zeh Mehasam. Well, there's a Gzeir Shaveh that it says Zeh by Nedarim, and it says Zeh by Shchutei Chutz. So just like by Shchutei Chutz, it is for all generations, so Ochit by Nedarim, it's for all generations. Hi Nami they live Zeh Zeh Mehasam. But then why don't we also learn out this Gzeir Shaveh for Nachlis and say that just like by Shchutei Chutz, it's for all generations, so then Ochit by Nachlis, it's for all generations, that any daughter who stands to inherit must marry within the tribe. So hi, my bishlam also. So I understand between the darim and shchutei chutz, it's strichtly gzeira shava. I need the gzeira shava for both sides. I need the gzeira shava for shchutei chutz, and I also need the gzeira shava to teach me epis by nedarim. But over here, lemay itztrich. Why do I need the gzeira shava? Lishto kramine v'ano yadayna de ledaris. Who? If by nachlis it was for all generations, so then just don't say anything. Because it says ze'adavar. We're saying ze'adavar means specifically this generation. We're saying, well, why don't we make a gzeir shava from nachlis to shchutei chutz, and say just like shchutei chutz is for all generations, so oichet nachlis is for all generations, not just for this generation. But the thing is, if that's all we're going to learn out from the Gzeira Shava, then just don't have a Gzeira Shava at all. If we're saying that Nachlis is for all generations, don't say Ze'adavar. I don't need the Gzeira Shava, and I'll just know that just like all mitzvahs by default apply to all generations, so Nachlis Ochit applies to all generations. So therefore the fact that it says Ze'adavar means specifically this generation. My Gzeira Shava, what's this Gzeira Shava that we're saying that it makes sense for Nidarim, between Nidarim and Shchutei Chutz, but not between shchutei chutz and nachlis? So the Tanya is learning about Nemar kan ze'adavar v'nemar l'holon ze'adavar. It says ze'adavar by shchutei chutz, and it also says it says ze'adavar by nedarim, and it also says ze'adavar by shchutei chutz. Malaholon aharon uvan v'choisol, just like by shchutei chutz, it's Aharon, his children, and all of Israel. So afkan so ochit by nedarim. Aharon Uvanav V'chol Yisrael. By Nedarim Ochit, it's Aharon Uvanav and all of Israel. Uma Kan Rosh Hamatis Afla'olam Rosh Hamatis. And just like by Nedarim, it's the heads of the tribes. So Ochit by Shchutei Chutz, it's the heads of the tribes. Umamai, we said earlier, Malaholan Aharon Uvanav V'chol Yisrael, Afkan Aharon Uvanav V'chol Yisrael. So Chevre, if you're confused, that makes sense. But now we're going to unconfuse you. So we had just said that just like by Shchutei Chutz it says Aharon and his children and all of Israel. So also by Nedarim it's all of Israel. So what does it mean it's for all of Israel? So Amar of Acha bar Yaakov Lomar to say Hafaras Nedarim, that when it comes to Hafaras Nedarim Bishlosha Adyotis, then when we say that just like by Shchutei Chutz it's for all of Israel, so also by Hafaras Nedarim it's for all of Israel, it means that the vow can be permitted by all of Israel. By 3 hadyotos, you don't need special expert judges to do Ataras Nedarim, right? They would even accept me. I was in the synagogue on Erev Rosh Hashanah this year, and there was Ataras Nedarim. They didn't ask me to be part of the Bezdin, although if I volunteered, they probably would have accepted me. But that's the point. If I would volunteer, they would have even accepted a shmenjuk like me. Shavar Zadar Bishlosha Adyotis. So all of Israel. But it says the heads of the tribes by Nedarim. Kedam Rav Chizda, it's like Rav Chizda, Rav Yochanan, then Rav Yochanan, as we're going to see at the end of the daf today. B'yochid mumche, achanam b'yochid mumche. That, well, alternatively, instead of 3 adjotis, you can also have a single expert judge for Ataras Nedarim. Umakan Roshei Hamatis, after all Roshei Hamatis, and just like by Nedarim, we say the heads of the tribes, so Ochit, by Shchutei Chutz, the heads of the tribes. The Mayach, so what do we learn from there? Amar Rav Sheshes Lomar, Rav Sheshes says to teach you Sheila Behektish. It's to say that you can have like a Hataras Nedarim when it comes to Hektish, meaning if a person is Makdish an animal, and then he slaughters it outside of the Beis HaMikdash, so he's Chayiv Kares. But wait. What he can do is, he can go and go to a chacham, and you could find a Pesach, find a way to retroactively undo the neder, undo the hektish, and then Mimele it's not hektish, so it's not shchutei chutz, it's not chayiv kares. So that's what we learn out from Roshei Hamatis. Ulveishame the Amrei ain't shela bektish. But Beishame, however, says ain't shela bektish. It's not as well in the Mishnah. Beishame omrim hektish toes hektish. Beisil omrim eno hektish. Beishame says that if you are accidentally makdish an animal, it's hektish. according to Beis Hillel, if you accidentally makdish an animal, it's not hektish. So therefore, if you're makdish an animal, okay, and then you slaughter it outside of the Beis Hamikdash, so that's a chiyuv kares. So the thing is, we're saying, well, maybe you could be. So we're saying that, well, you could be matir, you could be shoel, you can go to a chacham and undo it. What does that mean, undo it? It means, well, you made a mistake. That effectively, when you were makdish the animal, it was a mistake, and therefore, okay, if it was a mistake, so then you're not chayiv. It was a mistake. So it's not hektish. So that works if you say that mistaken hektish is not hektish. Therefore, you're saying, okay, it was a mistake, so it's not hektish. But according to Beis Shammai, who says that a mistaken hektish is hektish, so what does it mean that you could be shoel hektish? What's that going to do? It's going to make it mistaken, but mistaken is still hektish. So hai ze v'ze mai avdi le. So according to Beis Shammai, who say that mistaken hektish is hektish, so then clearly the Gzer Shava is not teaching that by shchutei chutz you can be matir the neder, which means that effectively the Gzer Shava falls apart, and Beis Shammai, I guess, doesn't have that tradition for the Gzer Shava. Well, if that's the case, Zeh v'zeh mayavdilis, and what's he learning out from Zeh Adavar by shchutei chutz as well as by nidarim? So Zeh Adavar the shchutei chutz mi boile ala shoichet uchayiv ve'enu al ha molek, that you're chayiv for shchutei chutz, you're chayiv if you slaughter outside the Beis Hamikdash, but you are not chayiv if you do melika for on a bird outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Zeh adavar the Rosh Amatis, and when it says Zeh adavar by nidarim miboile lechacham matir ve'ein baal matir, baal meifir ve'ein chacham meifir, right? That a husband, if it could be meifir, annul his wife's vow that day, so he uses the lashon of hafara, not the lashon of hatara. Right, and the same thing for a chacham. A chacham does hataras nedarim; he does not do afaras nedarim. Right, so we're saying zeh adavar, it has to be this way. Right, so a chacham is matir ve'ein baal matir, baal meifir ve'ein chacham meifir. I read that again. So now, according to Beis Shammai, who does not hold of the Gzer Shava, he does not have a Gzer Shava, so then how does he know that by nedarim, hataras nedarim can be done with 3 adjotis? That was learned out from the Gzer Shava. It says the Chol Yisrael by shchutei chutz. Therefore, we apply that to nedarim. So nafkalumi detani, they learn it out from the following brisa: Vaydaber Moshe meyadei Hashem of Bnei Yisrael, that Moshe spoke the festivals of God to the Bnei Yisrael. Rabbi Yosef Glili, says Rabbi Yosef Glili, and this is not going to make sense until we explain it. Meyadei Hashem nemru, Shabbos beishis lo nemru. It's the festivals of God, not Shabbos. That the festivals of God, not Hafaras Nedarim. Rabbi Yossi Bar Nosson Gomri lo Maslisav lo Yoda leFarushos. Now Rabbi Yossi Bar Nosson learned this Mishnah, and just like us, he didn't understand what it means. So also Basad Rav Sheshes l'Narda. So he went to find Rav Sheshes in Narda to ask him what it means. But he couldn't find Rav Sheshes in Narda. Also Basad Machoza Ashkechei. So he went to Machoza to find Rav Sheshes, and he found him there. So Rav Yossi Bar Nosson asks Rav Sheshes, what does it mean that the festivals of God were said, but not Shabbos? So Rav Sheshes says, that the festivals of God, you have to go to Bezdin and you're Mekadesh the Chodesh, and based on right now it's so I'm recording this maybe 3 days before Sukkot. I imagine when you hear it, it's probably going to be the middle of Sukkot. When is Sukkot? Sukkot is the 15th of Tishrei. When's Tishrei? Whenever Bezdin says Tishrei is. So therefore, so this year Sukkot falls out on a Thursday. But if Bezdin would have said that the next day was Rosh Chodesh, so then it would have been on a Friday. Could that work out? Because if it's on a Friday, so that means that Rosh Hashanah would have been, no, Rosh Hashanah can't be on a Friday. But can it be Fakert? I don't know. Maybe it could have been on a Wednesday. So that means that Rosh Hashanah, no, it can't be on a Wednesday either. Akoponim, I don't know. But whatever. But Be'etzem, the festivals are based, are relative to the Bezdin being Mekadesh the month. Shabbos Beishis and Tzricha Kiddush Bezdin, but Shabbos, however, is every 7 days. There's no regardless of Rosh Chodesh, of leap months, leap years. Regardless, Shabbos is every 7 days. Since Shabbos is juxtaposed to the festivals, to buy Kiddush Bezdin Kimayades, it would need Bezdin to establish the day like festivals. Kamash Milan Me'ade Hashem Nemru Nizeu. Kamash Milan is teaching that only the festivals require Kiddush Bezdin, not Shabbos. Me'ade Hashem. What does it mean that it's the festivals of God were said, but not Afaris Nadarim? And there you go. That specifically the festivals of God to Bezdin Mekadesh the month, that needs to be in Bezdin. That needs to be with expert judges. However, Afaris Nadarim does not need to be with expert judges. Hedjotis, i.e. Kol Yisrael, are enough. For Rashi Amatis Kseb, but it says Rashi Amatis by Nidarim, Amr Rav Chizda, Amr Rav Yechanan, B'Yochid Mumche, says Rav Chizda, then Rav Yochanan, that says that, alternatively, instead of 3 Hedjotis, you can have 1 expert judge. That was Daf Kuf Chav of Masechta BavaBasra. Some interesting stuff at the beginning with B'no Slafchad and Yocheved, and then we got into the whole Shtickle Torah about B'no Slafchad specifically being for that generation. Then we got into the Gzeir Shavu with Shchutei Chutz and Ataras Nadarim. Peace out.